Missed any of our conversations? Let's catch you up on YouTube Repeat. Subscribe and stay updated. We are Radio 537.
So basically, one of the greatest and quietly painful conundrums in the world it is the mind and the body problem. So
Okay.
the problem is rooted in the fact that, in the eyes of other people,
Mm.
all of us are associated with our bodies, which includes, of course, our faces. The way
Mm.
we look is the overwhelmingly factor or overwhelming factor that dictates how others assess
Perceive.
our nature and
Mm-hmm.
our character. So this is what basically I'm going to be talking about today.
Okay.
It's the way our bodies relate to our minds, whether in a good or a bad way, and how people perceive us as people based on the way we look.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
so Uh, so whatever lip service we pay, like we talk to people and try to explain to them who we are out there, who we are is taken to be how we look, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, a sweet face like yours, Toban, is assumed to be gentle and someone who is, into ongathanda uthetha kakhulu, but is a radio presenter, but kuthiwa hayi lona akathanda uthetha kakhulu and stuff because you have a sweet face. And then you have someone with a rough face, I don't know, like who. And then immediately he raises suspicions
Uh-huh.
everywhere he go. I don't know if you've ever watched these social experiments on YouTube where they make these social experiments zabantu, different kinds of people in different controlled scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
and then people will react to people differently. I was watching this other one the other
Mm-hmm.
time, and they put this guy who looked scruffy in the face, and he asked for like $1, right?
Uh-huh.
And the lady who was next to him, who is the subject of the experiment,
Mm-hmm.
found ways to avoid giving help to that guy based on the way he looked. And then when like a nicer looking guy, shaved
Mm-hmm.
beard, cut hair, asked the same amount, which was $1, the lady willingly helped him with even more. So
Mm.
the way we look says a lot, and it's our first impressions kabantu singabaziyo, and they take those looks into who we are.
Mm.
So we trust that our personal identity is indivisible from bodily form.
Mm-hmm.
So when people, for example, see Tubani without even talking to you, they already say, okay, this guy is like this guy is like that, this guy is like this. They
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use the word judge. Let me say they perceive you
Uh-huh.
this kind of way.
Mm.
But in all of this, there is one dramatic exception,
Mm.
which is our own cases, right? When
Mm-hmm.
it comes to ourselves, we know
Mm.
that usually with considerable and an ongoing sorrow that the way we look obviously isn't always who we are,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
Takes for instance again when I'm using you as an example today, man, eh,
The test
man,
subject
take for
namhlanje.
instance are you test subject but uyinduna ye-537 phela wena kumele ngisebenzise.
Yeah.
So take for instance when
Mm.
you enter a room, from what I've seen in your pictures, because I haven't seen you in a long time except the video calls, and you enter in your room with your formal, rocking your tie, typing with your glasses, your polished shoes, and you enter a room. The way people would judge you is
Uh-huh.
different from how they would judge someone who looks differently from you,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically something that is very dangerous that we people do, and myself included in the part,
Mm.
that it should not be like that. It's not
Mm.
every time that the way people look is who they are, right?
Mm. Mm.
So we when it comes to us, we understand this, which is
Mm-hmm.
strange enough because you already know, okay, I may look this way, but that's not necessarily me. People who
Uh-huh.
have tattoos have a
Mm.
tendency to be judged as criminal or
Criminals. Mm.
before even Tetanam, but people feel uncomfortable talking to them
Mm.
because of the way they look.
Mm.
And if, if the tattoo is on you, you don't think the same way because you are aware of this, that the way you look obviously
Mm-hmm.
isn't who you are,
Mm.
right?
Now,
We
Kanya,
we,
before
we
you continue, man, put, to what extent do we then drive that, you know, understanding, Yokuba, the way that, even for myself, the way that I look, it is not how I know what it is not the entirety of who I am. How far do we stretch that when we are living, in a society having ingqondo? And I love how you started with it. You talked about the mind and the body having ingqondo
yes,
that psychologists and clinicians will tell you that your mind tries its best to always protect you. So, how far can we really stretch this concept of trying to be, if I may say, for the lack of a better word, try not to assume on how people look? How far can we stretch it, understanding even how our minds react? Make an example. If I've grown up emdantsane and amaphara asemdantsane adume ngokuba aphaka nenkunzi, and then mhlambe I move and I get to another place, and it's a beautiful place, and these are just homeless people. They are harmless as well. They I wasn't park because the mind is trying to protect me. Eyona nto yokuqala that might probably happen when this homeless person comes across me, ndizawufuna ubaleka, I'll start to feel uncomfortable. So, how far do we really try to keep in sync and try not to be biased, yet still acknowledging the fact that we are people who, deep down, when we're in an unfamiliar territory, we go back to survival mode and we switch on to our minds about
yeah,
protect me now. So, how far can we really
yeah.
stretch the concept?
Yeah, I feel like I'm turning into a therapist here, Thomas. Tough question, tough
Mm.
question, but we'll answer it together, and we first of all, nah,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, that we start to live off survival instincts. You
Mm-hmm.
see, there's the difference between us and
Mm-hmm.
animals, I
Yeah.
should say, and I say this loosely.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, in my opinion, the biggest difference,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that we walk on 2 feet, right?
Mm.
It's not that we are just called humans and then they are called animals.
Animals. Mm.
But the biggest and the most important thing that we should understand, well, I came to understand, is animals live off instinct and
Mm-hmm.
humans live off intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
We use our brain, we just don't have it. We akusukuthi sinayo nje,
Nje. Mm.
but we put it into use,
Mm.
some better than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now, because of certain experiences, now
Mm.
people tend to go to the level of, how can I say this? The primitive state where you start to
Ah.
live of instinct
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Intelligence.
intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that,
Mm-hmm.
the danger starts to escalate because
Mm.
even nalento yokujonga umtu and already you saying lo mntu unjena,
Mm.
it's primitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's you are showing ukuthi okokuqala, you yourself,
Mm.
you are you are unable to be at ease okokuqala ngawe, because
Mm.
as I said before, that we understand ukuthi thina we are not obviously the way we look, right? We
Mm-hmm.
we 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 are not always like that, and we are
Mm-hmm.
profoundly aware of a large gulf between our understanding of
Mm.
ourselves and the suggestions that are emitted by our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the body suggests that lo muntu ndingamaziyo who's homeless and harmless at the same
Mm-hmm.
time is going to do what those other guys did to you. That's
Mm.
that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I can even go to the extent to say that we went through a traumatic experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Mm-hmm.
went through a traumatic experience and you are reliving the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's something minor, but
Mm.
possibly you might need help to overcome that because now akusiwo wonke umuntu omdaka that is homeless. What if
Mm.
I was fixing my car and then I'm coming to you to ask for a push? Are you going to
Uh-huh.
assume that I'm homeless and I'm going
Mm.
to rob you? My
Mm.
friend, I think that's a traumatic experience that you need help from. No?
Mm.
Now, sometimes what's on the outside isn't a complete is a complete distortion, in
Uh-huh.
fact, of who you are, the real
Mm.
you.
Mm.
So as you were saying, you moved into a beautiful place. You should have said Cape Town, by the way. You moved into a beautiful place and you see Lombi, and already, your alarm bells are ringing. You have
Mm.
to train yourself to overcome that
Mm.
primitive behavior because not everyone is like everyone. Unvile Toban
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
And available. Not everyone is like everyone. And when do you win?
Unvile there. So in this conundrum of trying because now you are aware which the way you look isn't the who you are.
Mm.
You people tend to try different things to sort this out. We some bravely push their hair this way and that,
Mm.
or soften their appearance with a particular set of clothing,
Mm.
or some wear intricate shoes and perhaps some kind of cream powder here. And I'm avoiding to say makeup. That's why I'm using this
And
kind of word.
ngikujongile ngiyakuva.
I don't want the other side of the country to be sending
Fight.
voice notes attacking me. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say right. I don't want to say that. So nothing can overcome the monumental injustice which
Uh-huh.
we appear to be subject.
Mm.
Right. So we for us we try these lots of things, Tobani.
Uh-huh.
Some try even, plastic surgery. Some, do many things just to change their appearance. Because, for an example, people feel beautiful when other people think they are beautiful, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that's why you see about they are changing their nose, their ears, their whatever. Some are even changing themselves completely,
Mm.
not just making minor adjustments, just
Mm.
because of they want to look and be perceived as this particular kind of person.
Person.
They're trying
Mm.
to bring what is within, ne,
Mm.
what is within them outside, but you can't do that by sculpting and resculpting your body in various ways.
Mm.
The best way to do that is to be yourself around people. Prove people wrong
Mm.
through your actions,
Mm.
not through the way you sculpt your body or you sculpt yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And yes, when yo, bro, what you're talking about, and uh, what I've come to find usually is that when the focus is so external, usually there's little to almost no attention paid to the internal, to the intrinsic value and
Yeah.
understanding of who am I and acceptance of who you are. Because I believe that the more you get to be comfortable in your own skin and become that person who knows this is who I am And because once you get to know who you are, as you were saying, Ugut, it's so funny that we always think that just because umtu looks a certain way, that's the complete image of who he is. That's a complete
Yeah.
representation of who that person is. But when it comes to ourselves, we know fully well, Uguti, that's not the case. And I think sometimes we do that because we have not come to terms and to accept the fact that even when it comes to ourselves, we are not all that we are protruding and kind of like showing ourselves up to be. We don't accept that within us there is, a good side. Within us there is a bad side. Within us there are good character traits. Within us there are bad character traits. I remember someone
Yeah.
once even said, Uguti, there's been this hullabaloo, if I may call it that, of get out of toxic relationships, leave toxic people. Have you ever considered that maybe you are the toxic person, that other person
Mhm.
people need to, get out of and break relationships with? So it's, I think to a certain extent, lando leyana iveza nokuba kwathina we don't take time to be by ourselves, examine ourselves, and really accept the fact that there's not complete harmony when it comes to who we are. Good, yeah, I'm all good, and what you see, outside when I wear and dress like this is all that you get. Then even when we
Yeah.
treat other people, the same thing reflects ukuthi, I man, I have not actually come to terms with who I am
Sure.
as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That what you said there is very powerful. You got my mind going brrrr, up and down. So it's true. It's really true, and that stems, I think, from the fact that people there,
Mm,
abantu around us, and this is, I think, one of the leading world
mm,
problems, if not the main root or one of the main roots of the kind of society we live in, is people can see outside but can't see what's on your
within.
inside. So now you try to make the outside to be what they want instead of trying to bring in what's inside
Mm,
of you outside.
yes.
And it isn't merely that we feel maybe unattractive. We
Mm,
feel something bigger. We
yeah.
feel misrepresented, right?
Mm,
Like a forced ambassador of a country we don't inhabit or identify with.
mm,
So now, because we are caught in all of that, we 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 have this war between our bodies, which is how we look, and
mm.
our mind, which is who we are. I don't know if you know the quote is "What man thinks, so he
He
is."
is.
Right?
Mm,
So the way you think, your thoughts become who you are, and it's not all the time that what you see on the outside
mm,
is is on the inside. So
mm,
because of this, there's a big mistake of people misinterpreting
mm,
abanye abantu, and now here's a mistake. Our characters are liable to mold themselves to personalities that are implied by our faces as a result of years,
mm,
sometimes many years of people assuming that this must be who we are and
mm,
treating us in the light of our appearance. Like
mm,
the gentle side of someone who seems gentle will
mm,
constantly be invited to the surface, right?
mm,
By 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 the expectation and the encouragement of others.
mm,
That person will always know, they will always appeal to the
mm,
gentler side because of they feel like the way this person looks
mhm,
is a gentle person, is someone who does not give problems. So that that kind of character in that person will constantly be be invoked,
mhm,
be invited to the surface,
mm,
and some will use things like compliments, like I don't know, words, courteous words, just to be catalyst to show ukuthi nyani their perception of this person
mm,
is the way they think.
Mm.
And this is a big mistake because we end up molding ourselves towards that, not to who
Mm.
we are, but what we are expected to be. And it
Mm.
seems to be a huge problem among the youth of the country as well.
Sure. That is so beautiful, man. That is so beautiful. And really, what you have touched on really is the fact that I feel as if maybe at the bottom of the problem that we are having, and then that comes back to kind of like bite our hand, is that we have not become people who are at peace with ourselves. And I think you touched on this last week on how we are even afraid to spend time with ourselves so that we can really get to know ourselves, discover who we really are. Because I believe that the more value that, again, I'll reiterate this, that we discover within ourselves and that lies in our true identity, it is the more we will be focused on bringing what is within out. But when we don't consider what is within as valuable, we'll always try to mimic what is outside because it seems appealing, people accept it, and it is being,
Yeah,
iqhwatyelwa izandla. So then we'll always
yeah,
mold our identity, and everything else that we do to be in alignment kule nto iqhwatyelwa izandla. And that is a
yeah.
terrible, terrible standard for us to set for ourselves. Because what if then the community, the society, the nation are applauding something that is wrong? Then that means
Mm-hmm.
ukuthi, terrible characters, personalities will be formed as a result. And I think we are living in a time where the manifestation of what I'm actually saying is iyabonakala, iyavela. So bro, seseshayela nje imizuzu embalwa to close it off, ithini into that, what do we do with this thing?
Ah, hey man, the conclusion of this, as I wrote it down here on my note, is the mind and the body problem. It leads us to understand what love should really involve.
Mm,
First of all, a commitment to remember that the other person and you is
mm.
not how they always appear. Their body was imposed and they did not choose, right? You never chose to be in that body. It
Mm,
was imposed on you. So we should remember this as you always remember to yourself that
mm,
the way you look is not how you choose to look. It's the way you were born. It's how you were created. If Ketela, everyone will be, I don't know, in Greek mythology, they had what you call the perfect body, chiseled jaw, tall,
uh-huh.
I don't know, six pack or whatever. Everyone would be that. Everyone, I
Mm,
was looking at the status of my friend Unjabula from Joburg.
mm,
His body is going to the gym and he
mm,
has nice looking big arms and I'm like, oh man, good arms, nothing that's getting better.
mm.
But the thing is, I'll rather lift up a book than to lift up the weight.
David.
No, so you have to remember that love should involve remembering to treat others, as I always say, as you would treat yourself.
Mm,
Our bodies were imposed on us. We never chose them. There
mm-hmm.
may be a different character trapped inside that envelope. Cyril Conley said, inside every fat man is a thin one trying to get out. Have you ever heard of that quote, Tops?
Yo, it's the first time. Mm,
Is Cyril Conley? He said
mm,
every inside him. He was a big man, fat,
mm-hmm.
and he did not like the way he looked. So
Mm-hmm.
he said, "No, there's inside of me. There's a thin guy trying to get out, but he's
Mm-hmm.
trapped." But
Mm,
this shouldn't be limited to the fat thin dichotomy.
mm,
Inside a stressing number of us, there is someone else trying to get out. Inside the youth of today, that is,
mm,
I'm sorry to say, that is heavily judged by society.
mm,
There is someone else trying to get out. Those scientists, those doctors, those lawyers,
mm,
those presidents are trying to get out, but they can't because of the way things are. The best we can do to overcome the mind and body problem, Tobani, is it's not to fiddle with our clothes or invest in hairdressers or endanger our health with plastic surgery. We'll never be able to properly align mind and body by outward sculpting.
Mm.
So the solution is to understand that the problem is
Existential.
an existential part of being human. I'm
Mm.
sorry there. I don't know. Some words I our poor memory amagama. Fana nawo ngokuzobiza ubuhlali ne. And
Mm.
therefore we must strive to remember that in
Mm.
spite of all the visual evidence
Mm-hmm.
and in the spirit of love, that the bodies and faces of others are very separate from the character of
Mm.
their mind. Yeah, I
Wow.
think that should be my closing statement.
Wow, wow, wow! What a beautiful one, bro! What a beautiful one! Thank you so much, man, for putting us to sleep with that beautiful late night.
From A to Z, name it, we'll talk about it. Bringing you robust and insightful conversations. This is your favorite late night show on the table.